Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up?
Really like that.
You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Guide Network, and I want to start here tonight. Is Rod Wave the only artist in music today still doing R&B music and doing so at a high rate? That's what we're talking about before the show. Not Jaden Pilati, not Michigan, not, camp starting Thursday. Nope. We were discussing whether or not Rod Wave is the last known R&B artist that is actually out here doing it. I tell the label no deal. Tell the label no deal. Welcome in. We do indeed have a loaded show for you guys tonight. I opened up yesterday's show with kind of a joke and a passing comment about how I love football so much and I'm so giddy for the start of college football so much that I was about to sit down and write a poem. I did not do that yesterday. I did not break out Dylan Riola's ChatGPT poem for today's show. I did, however, bring you the top 5 reasons that I fell in love with the sport of football. I also proposed this topic to our chat over in Discord today. It was a rather fruitful conversation over there. If you want to join us, patreon.com/Brooks Austin. But I felt it necessary to bring you my top 5 reasons that, again, this is not why I currently love football. These are the top 5 reasons that I fell in love with the game of football. OLI, ready here, boys? These are the outside looking in nominations. Drip. I'm just telling you, there was something about, even though I played offensive line, defensive line my whole entire career, had a little moonlighting session at tight end and linebacker my freshman year of high school, but that was short-lived. Eventually put my hand back in the dirt really quickly. Even as a fat kid, there was something about knowing that I was fitting to look good. All right. And maybe it was the single mother in me. Maybe it was whatever it was in me, but there was something about knowing that, hey, I'm gonna the night before, I'm gonna make sure my socks are ready. I'm gonna make sure I got my towel that I'm gonna put on. I'm gonna make sure, hey, are we wearing sleeves? Maybe not. Are we going half sleeves? Up little Matty Ice type drip. Are we doing that? Do we have our proper girdle? Even the what do you call it? This when you have superstition, even the superstitious nature of the drip, I really, really love that. I miss that about the game of football. I don't know which order of the OLI these go, but they are relatively connected, and it's all about the outcome of the game. This is college only. Didn't do these in high school, Mom, if you're listening. Post-win ragers. Those were epic. However, as were post-loss bingers, all right, because, if you're trying to break a world record for drunkest human on the planet, post-loss benders will absolutely do that to you. And those were just good times. The most fun revolving around alcohol always came after a Saturday night football game as a football player. Here we go. Top 5. This is 5 down to 1. Bus rides, number 5. Bus rides, high school, college, even middle school. Bus rides were like one of my favorite things about sports in general. Just hanging with the boys. Was definitely a back of the bus guy. Was also, once I got to college and became a starter, you're certainly not sitting with me, get the hell out of here, I get my own row type guy. Bus rides were legit. Number 4, the anxiety pit is what I'm calling this. All right, that pit in your stomach. And it wasn't always just before games either. I would know, you would know as a football player when football practice was about to be held. You could feel it coming on a Monday morning, all day, that pit of anxiety in your stomach for, we finna get effed up at 3 o'clock. That pit right there, I miss it. But that was also something that I loved about football. I loved that I always had to pee right before pregame. Like right as I was going out for the coin toss, got hit with a pee every single time. Anxiety pee. That's what that was. That was the anxiety pit. I missed that about football. I loved that about football. I also loved the suck about football. And the suck is number 3. And though I don't have a military background, I would imagine folks in the military can relate to this, that there is a bond that is created in the midst of the suck. Okay, in the midst of whatever you're doing that is really, really hard, there's a bond that is created. There is also a level of mental toughness that is provided to you because you have survived something really, really hard. You get through the suck, you can pretty much do whatever comes next. That is the mentality that is installed pretty much in football camp every single year. There is anxiety leading up to it, and then you get through that really, really hard time. You get through that suck with your teammates, and then there's a level of confidence provided because nothing that comes forward, nothing that comes moving forward will ever be worse than what we just endured. So we're good because we got through the suck. And I almost relish that. I almost like try to find ways to establish that in my own life nowadays. It was like, hey, I can get through today's workload because I got through whatever I challenged myself to do, right? Whatever hard thing I challenged myself to do. Embracing the suck was something I really, really loved about football. Relationships. This goes top to bottom. Everybody can understand this, but it's not just the relationships between the lines that impacted my life around the game of football, but I don't meet my wife without football. I don't meet you guys without football. I don't meet you guys as an audience member without football. Okay, football has played a major role in everything that I love and every relationship that I've cultivated in my life. That is not by happenstance. That is not by circumstance, okay? Or I shouldn't say it's not by circumstance. That is probably by design, okay? The game of football has provided a lot of tremendous relationships to me. And number one, as we get sentimental, bro, the grass. We talked about it the other night. Cutting grass and that smell of a freshly cut football field. And I know everyone plays on turf nowadays, but the suck happens on the grass, and y'all know that. No matter where you're at, the worst of worst happens on the natural grass. The smell of that sumbitch being freshly cut, I fell in love with that immediately when I was a child. How about that top five, boys? Welcome to football season. Get you going right there.
We're here, baby.
Grass number one, but there is something different about football field grass. It does hit a little different.
It does indeed hit differently.
Yeah, I would agree with that one.
Any other top fives, boys? Did you put one together?
Yeah, I got one. Do you want me to go or do you want?
I can finish it off.
All right, sounds good. So the first reason I love football is it's a sport for everyone and it's different for everyone. If you're, basketball is you have to be tall, you have to be somewhat athletic to play that. If you're a football player, you can be big, you can be skinny, it doesn't matter. And that experience is different for everyone. Your experience playing football is different from mine. It's different from the quarterback. So it's a sport for everyone in the truest form. There's no more exhilarating sport to watch or play. I mean, you watch football there's people that don't really understand a thing about sports, still go to games every Saturday just because it is such a fun thing to be around. It's simple enough to watch, but still super complex to keep you interested.
Love that about it, right? It's anybody can watch football and be entertained. And then, it's there for the kindergarten level absorption of the game. It's also there for the advanced AP calculus absorption of the game. I do love that about football.
Exactly. And then the main reason I fell in love with it was the physicality. Like, there's no other sport other than combat and mixed martial arts where you can just legally assault a player on the field. Yeah. And it's encouraged. And then the fifth one was I have yet to find, and this kind of goes back to what you were saying, I've yet to find a feeling in life that replicates the way you feel while playing it, before playing it, after playing it. It's just something so unique about it. That's why I love it.
Car crash is how I explained it to people. Lots going on. You feel like you can remember it all, but you didn't feel any of it until afterwards.
I like that.
And I came to that conclusion the first time I totaled a truck after my college football career. And everybody's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Buddy, this ain't." I used to go through like 70 of these. Now that I know what this feels like, I used to go through like 70 of these a day. Because Sundays hurt like hell. The day after that car crash, a total in a truck, driver's side, by the way, didn't feel like shit. That one really scared me. And this whole idea of physicality dominating, all that good stuff, and the contact, and I love contact, Petey, play defense. Offensive people will not tell you this. Okay, offensive linemen might do I like moving people that don't want to be moved, that macho-ness. But this idea of I miss contact, it's either I play defense or I didn't play long enough. I had 19 seasons of contact. When I got done with it, you won't hear me talk shit about contact. I want nothing to do with it. My body took forever to decompress when I got done playing with it.
My top five obviously looks a little different because mine does not come from a perspective of someone who played football. But I think it still can be relatable
the
for a lot of people.
Perspective.
Yeah. So for number five, weekdays suck so much less They like the weekdays are okay because you always have something to look forward to on Saturday. You knew college football was going to be waiting for you. As soon as you got done with whatever your business was on Friday, you already started looking forward to Saturday and getting ready for it. So number 5 there, weekdays. You can get through them a lot more easy. The weather. I mean, late September until early November is just the best weather of all time because that means you can wear shorts and a hoodie. And in my opinion, that is the best weather there ever could be. I love hoodie and short weather. That's just the best to me.
He is cooking.
Number 3, that feeling of watching an absolute classic on Saturday when you don't even have a dog in the fight. That's the best football, one of the best football games you could ever watch, especially after your team has already played, especially if it's after a win. You're watching 2 other SEC teams just duke it out and they're just going score for score. Those games are so much fun. And I think that's what it's the epitome of what makes college football so great. Number 2, the food. I mean, game day spreads in general, they're just awesome, especially for us. We always had something throw down on the grill and it always slapped.
I'm assuming tailgating as a whole falls into that category of food.
Yeah, just the whole overall thing. I didn't do much tailgating, actually. I didn't go to a whole lot of games growing up. We were always at home, but still, game day spreads were elite over at our place. And then number 1 for me, Saturdays with my dad. That's how I always remember college football is. Every Saturday in the fall, me and my dad hang out, watch college football every single day from the morning until the end. So that's my number 1 for me.
Oh, man. I missed the binge. I don't know what that was. I missed the binge watching of college football with Pa.
Yeah.
That was
Great time.
That's good stuff. That's childhood as childhood can get.
The best would be like you and your friends play football in the front yard from like 10 to noon before the first game comes on.
Yes.
Or then the game you were watching halftime, like, all right, let's go throw the ball for like 15 minutes. And then your parents come like, it's back on.
No, the best was when you had a 10 a.m. 100-pound football game. And then you get done with that, and then you get to go watch football at Taco Mac with all your boys after the game. And then after that, you get to go home and beg your mom to stay with one of your buddies and do the, hey, mom, can I go? She says no, but you say, Mike, can I go? And he's a stepdad, so he wants you to get the hell out of the house. And you get to go anyways. And then you go over to your buddy's house, and you stay over there, and you watch the primetime football game. That's childhood. Did you know they fixed Capri Suns, by the way?
Fixed? Were they ever broke?
Well, Capri Suns, when we were children, were slap loaded with sugar.
Oh, yeah.
Slap loaded with sugar.
That's the American way.
I know, but did you know the kids today get 1 gram total sugar Capri Suns? And they still hit like methamphetamine. It's crazy.
Yeah, there's something unnatural in there then.
There's got to be, right? But
you can't make something taste that good without that much sugar.
I couldn't even tell you last time I had one.
I can't.
You should have had one this weekend at Carter's birthday party because they were banging.
You know they sell them like gallon jugs now?
Gallon jugs? It's Thunder. That's what that is. That's Thunder coming our way.
Lovely.
Here in the studio.
Wait, they sell it by the gallon?
Yeah, like the Hawaiian Punch gallon.
The frats are mixing with that for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to mix it.
We get returned down Frat Row come Thursday afternoon.
Oh,
that'll be fun.
It's gonna be peak too.
It'll be peak fratness going on.
Millage will. Sororities are already there, aren't they?
No, I think they get there the week before class.
I know a lot of other schools they've already returned.
I don't know. I don't keep up with it.
I'm going to be thinking about a gallon-sized jug of Capri Sun.
I am too.
The show.
That sounds awesome.
That's pretty wild. Welcome in. We have a loaded show for you guys tonight. Michigan apparently set to face a postseason ban potentially from the NCAA. It looks like they're going to get hit with a notice of allegations pretty soon. We're going to start the show with that. Which team has the most to lose during the week 1 matchups? Florida finally did it. We're going to laugh at Florida for a little bit, and we're going to jokingly talk about Florida for a little bit, and then I'm going to hit you with the real that I've been hitting you with regards to Florida for a fat minute now. 3 biggest storylines going into the 2024 collegiate football season. We'll talk a little bit about that. Jay Will is going to tell us why Tennessee is a little bit of a victim of bad timing right now. And of course, as we mentioned last night, there is no ad read for you guys tonight. We're just going to ask you to go ahead and support the show however, wherever you support it. If you're over there on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you're over there on Twitter, make those hearts fly. If you're watching us anywhere else other than that, it's pirated. I guess. Please report it to me. Please report it to me. If you miss any portion of tonight's broadcast, it will be made readily available, however, wherever you catch your podcast. Make sure you drop us a review over there as well. Trying to get those numbers back up. We'll have our announcement of our new sponsors come Thursday for you guys. We'll roll one out Thursday and then probably roll one out again on Monday as well. Super excited for some new news around this channel as it continues to grow with the support and the appreciation of you guys as well. Appreciate y'all for being here with us tonight. The NCAA is indeed coming for Michigan finally. NCAA is expected, if they haven't already, by the end of the day, maybe tomorrow per reports, expected to provide the University of Michigan with a notice of allegations. That's no different than being indicted from my understanding, which every time I use the word indicted, I think of the movie Fun with Dick and Jane, where Jim Carrey's running around and going, I'm going to be indicted. I'm going to be indicted, Jane. I'm being indicted. They're being indicted up at Michigan. They're being indicted with a notice of allegations. There's going to be a level 1 violation charge for Connor Stallions, and 2 other coaches up at Michigan will receive level 2 violations. Sources saying the NCAA is seeking a 1 to 2 year postseason ban. Michigan apparently reports are already that they will be appealing that postseason ban, and the appeal of this will not even be heard until 2025. So this idea that Michigan might be receiving a postseason ban, gentlemen, is going to be lingering over this football program for quite some time, it appears, which if I were Michigan, I don't know how long I allow this to drag, because the longer this drags, the more it's used against you on the recruiting trail, and it counts just as bad. So in other words, it's just a 1-year bowl ban, or it's just a 2-year bowl ban. Well, if you drag this out for 2 years in court, it might as well be a 4-year bowl ban, because every single recruit that you're recruiting for or you're trying to land on the recruiting trail right now is going to be told they're not going to get to play in the postseason because you have this lingering and hanging over your head. So you need to get the ball rolling on this, and you need to get the ball rolling as fast as possible if you believe you have any grounds for approval of an appeal or winning an appeal in court, which, gentlemen, I don't know how you're going to have any type of grounds to win this appeal in court unless you claim that Connor Stallions is a rogue agent, which we don't believe you're going to be able to do so. Obviously, they're going to tie you up in some other level 2 violations with other coaches as well. Or, I don't know how you get out of this. How do you think you have grounds to win this in court for an appeals battle when we have the evidence of him on the sideline with you and evidence of him on other people's sidelines with the Inspector Gadget goggles on?
I don't see there's an avenue to get out of this per se, or maybe somewhere you can take a plea deal if they do that in the NCAA and make the charges lighter. But it's the reason why half the coaching staff after winning the Natty pieced out was like, okay, I'm going to go elsewhere. Now Jim Harbaugh left and went to the NFL. People kind of saw this coming down the pipe. We've all said that this was...
When we stopped, we still kept winning, so we could argue that it didn't affect the results, so therefore there is no need for punishment because it really didn't matter in the end. We still ended up winning the national title.
Just trying to make sure our streams are staying up with all the weather. The idea of a postseason ban will linger over them in recruiting for the foreseeable future. It also, the idea that Connor Stallions is already being brought up in these level 1 violations and these things are going to go to an appeals court, we presume, makes that documentary real interesting.
Yeah.
Real interesting. The one that's coming out. You've been really skeptical about this from jump, so I'll give you the floor here, Curb.
Yeah,
why are you making the face?
For so long, we were so excited about how the Florida teams under Urban Meyer need a documentary. The amount of criminals they had, the fact that Tim Tebow is their leader, all that. They won the national titles. It's so interesting. And we finally got the announcement that the documentary was coming last summer. And, oh, my God, they got Urban Meyer to sit down and do the interview. And it was basically a recounting of Urban Meyer's career. He basically just walked us through all that. They didn't really touch on the arrest. They didn't really touch on any other things that were happening around that program. And I feel like it's going to be, because it's by the same company that's doing this documentary. It's the Untold series. So I feel like it's going to be the exact same thing with Connor Stallions, where he's going to sit down in the chair. He's going to, talk about how much Michigan football means to him. He's going to say all of these things about how he would do anything to have them win. And then they're going to go through the season and kind of talk about each game individually. And then this is the that came down the pipe, or this investigation started. And he's never really going to give you a behind the curtain detail on it, I don't think.
The only thing I would argue to that is it seems like Connor Stallions is a bit of a loose cannon already. And so maybe he does. And what does he have to lose at this point? At this point, this is his claim to fame, and this is what he's going to ride to the grave. I mean, this is what he's going to be known for the rest of his life. So why not go on to this documentary, air it all out, because you're no longer part of the program anyways, and just make more waves, get more people talking about it, and you become even more famous. That's the only argument I would have to that. And that's how I hope it is, honestly. Like, if you're going to tell this story, if this is what you want to make a documentary on, they give us all the details. Like, pry him as much as you possibly can and let him air out every single bit of information he's willing to.
I am mind-boggled. I am bamboozled. I am hoodwinked at the idea that this man did not have to sign an NDA when he left. I talked about this last week when we found out that this documentary was coming down. That is malpractice.
Yeah.
That is malpractice from that administration.
Which, again, it makes me think that he's not going...
Kirby, what do you think he's going to do? You think he's going to sit in a chair and just smile when they ask him questions? He's on the documentary about sign stealing.
He's probably not going to get pressed on it.
But what are they going to talk to him about? His vacuum business?
They're going to recount the 2023 season, how Michigan faced the odds, and how they had all of these investigations going on, how everyone was accusing them of being cheaters. Go rewatch the Florida.
I remember watching it, but we still got a historical timeline of what happened at Florida. We didn't get the dirt, we didn't get the grime, but we still had a chronological timeline of events, of how things perspired. Even if it was just from Urban Meyer's point of view, even if we didn't get the dirt that we wanted, we still got a timeline of events. We still got subject matter from the Florida documentary. Okay. What we're not going to be able to do is tell a story about Connor Stallions without Connor Stallions sitting down and saying anything. You know, like, they're going to have to ask him some type of question. The story is the untold Connor Stallions story about sign stealing.
Right. I don't think we need to go into this story expecting to get a clearer view of what Connor Stallions was, or kind of a better understanding as to how the operation worked, or even get an understanding as to why he did it.
Yeah.
It's going to be him talking about how much he loves Michigan and how much the 2023 season meant to that program.
For Michigan's sake, I would imagine that's what they're hoping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just don't know how he's featured in the documentary without them asking him about this specific topic. And he can do the I love Michigan and all that good stuff, and I'm sure that will be a large portion of that. And he was just a groupie, as the chat's talking about. He's just a fanboy of the program. We understand that, but like, it's an hour-long documentary. I'm sure they're going to talk a little bit more than just about Connor Stallions liking Michigan football. Nonetheless, the doc's going to be interesting how these things play out and whether or not they ultimately accept a postseason bowl ban. Here's my question: if you're Michigan, if you're Sherrone Moore, would you fight this thing out in hopes that you may get it knocked down from 2-1, or would you just go ahead and accept the 1?
Just go ahead and accept the 1, in my opinion.
Take the 1, I think.
I would just take the 1 now. You're rebuilding anyways.
Yeah.
It's going to suck for Donovan Edwards. I'm sorry. It's going to suck for Mason Graham. I'm sorry. It's going to suck for Turner, the corner.
Will Johnson.
Will Johnson, the corner. I'm really, really sorry for you guys, but like, y'all also got a ring out of this.
Yeah.
So y'all are okay? Everyone's okay? We're going to take this L now and move on.
Right. The end justifies the means for them, I think. I mean, it certainly does for Michigan fans. So I don't see why you would fight to drag tooth and nail to risk getting further into trouble with this.
And if not, then every single season until your verdict comes, we
baited Florida fans into the chat.
They're in.
We got ladies and gentlemen, we got them.
Every single season from this, like, until the verdict comes in, like, you're sitting there thinking, like, we might play this season, we might get 7 games in, we might be 7-0, and then we get slapped with a bowl ban or postseason ban, and now it feels like we didn't do anything. So, like, the earlier I think you can get this settled and just kind of figure what the heck is going to happen and whatever, the better off you will be as a program, because you can't have that hanging over your head. You want to spark it up?
Hey, let's light that thing. Couple of good games week 1.
Really? Because was it last year that week 1 kind of sucked?
Last year, week 1 kind of sucked. Year before last, week 1 was OD. Week 1 was out of this world, loaded down. This year, it's kind of a little bit of both. You know, week 0 is kind of a dud, it seems. Week 1 It's got some ball games. Obviously,
love that.
Clemson and Georgia. That's not what we're here to talk about today. Today, we're here to talk about which teams have the most to lose in week 1. We're going to talk about 3 games to start the football season. USC versus LSU, Notre Dame at Texas A&M, Florida versus Miami. A lot on the line in all of these week 1 football games, and they should be tightly contested. At least the Vegas or the spreads in Vegas would lead you to believe so. I want to start at Notre Dame on the road at Texas A&M. Boys, who has the most to lose here in this football game?
Oh, it's Notre Dame.
I'm gonna say Notre Dame, because there's buzz about you potentially being a playoff team this year, and if you go out and lose to you also have to beat competent SEC teams if you want to make the playoff as a non-conference team. So you have to. This is one of those must-win games for you. Whereas Texas A&M, it's your first game with your first year of a new head coach. Like, yeah, it'd be great to win this game, but as long as you show fight against a top, 10 opponent, you don't have to win this game. The stakes aren't super high for you if you're Mike Elko.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the reasons of what each program is trying to prove this year. Notre Dame is trying to prove that Marcus Freeman is this elite head coach. He is the guy for the program. Notre Dame is still going to be competing for playoff spots in the top 12, even though they're not in a conference. And that starts with beating teams like Texas A&M, who are in a first-year head coach, and they're kind of working out some adjustments. I mean, Mike Elko, his prove it this year is proving that he is the caliber of an SEC coach, and he can get the job done. But if you drop a game to Notre Dame in week 1, not too many people are going to bat an eye at that. In fact, most people would probably tell you that's okay. That's kind of what we expected from you.
Looking at this schedule, this is you have to go 11-1 to make the playoff anyways type of schedule. This schedule is not strong enough for them to lose 10 games and expect to be a top 11 seed. Based off what we know about the SEC this year, based off what we know about the Big Ten, based off the idea that we think Utah might be a potential playoff team or whatever happens in the Big 12, there are just not enough spots for Notre Dame to think that they can go 10-2 and lose multiple games on this schedule. Listen to it. At Texas A&M, Northern Illinois, Purdue, Miami, of Ohio, not the Hurricanes, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, Army, Southern Cal. Okay, there are there are 3 football teams on that schedule that may or may not crack the top 25. That's it. The rest of the schedule is borderline mid-major. So that is not you lost to Texas A&M and Florida State, let's let you in. No, the schedule's not good enough. You're going to have to go 11-1, making this a must-win for Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. So I'm with you guys on that one. All right, on to the next one. USC and LSU playing out there in Las Vegas. Who's got the most to lose in this football game?
This is tough.
This one was tougher because when you say most to lose, LSU can realistically lose this game and still go to the playoff, still have everything in front of them.
They kind of have the last 2 years, didn't
exactly.
They lost Florida State to kick off the season, both the last 2 seasons.
Right. But it would be a much bigger disappointment, and you would have more questions around Brian Kelly's program. Whereas if you're USC, I mean, the narrative kind of right now is Lincoln Riley's kind of swirling the toilet. Like that's what it is. Like, if you turn in another 7-5 season, there's going to be serious problems. If you don't get fired this year, you're going to be on the hot seat come 2024.
Is toilet spin backwards in California?
No, I think that's only below the equator.
Go ahead.
Who's the first person? That's going to be off topic, but who knows? Like, damn, the toilet's spinning the other way.
I guess the first guy to travel from north of the equator to south of the equator within a multi-hour time span.
That means that someone
and having to take a
that's what I'm saying. Someone used the bathroom, stood up, and watched it flush. I was like, huh.
Is it a confirmed myth, by the way? Because I've never been to Australia.
I don't know.
I've never been south of the equator.
I don't know.
Maybe the chat can help us out there. Maybe they do. Maybe it's just cap the whole time. Maybe the toilets are always spinning clockwise.
Maybe. But going back to that,
it is not true. Shouts out to Marion Campbell.
Thanks, Marion.
Marion, OG of the chat, definitely seems like a well-traveled man.
Yeah, for sure. But going back to, I think Lincoln Riley has more to lose from this standpoint, just because you lose to LSU earlier in the season. The schedule doesn't get any easier for you, and the outlook on your coaching job there doesn't get any better.
I'm going to argue the opposite, actually. Okay. I'm going to say that USC or LSU has more to lose because Brian Kelly himself came out and said that this is the deepest team that he has ever had at LSU. Deepest teams that you've ever had at LSU do not lose to USC with Miller Moss at quarterback, without a number 1 overall pick at quarterback, and Lincoln Riley coming off a 7-5 season. USC, who's coming off a 7-5 season and is kind of in this median season building year between maybe you get Julian Lewis in, you do lose to LSU in week 1.
There's a substantial portion of whatever exists of a USC football fan base that's already marking this one off as a loss. There ain't a smidgen of the LSU fan base that's doing that. For that very reason, LSU has more to lose in this football game.
Yeah.
I'm going to change my opinion because this is year 3 for Brian Kelly, and year 3 is kind of the prove it year where, hey, you won the West your first, you had a Heisman winner this year. Like, it's time to really start making pushes at being a national title team. So I do think LSU has more to lose now.
Plus, that'd make him 0-3 in week 1 games.
That's crazy.
0-3. If you're starting every single year off with a loss, I mean, before you even get into your SEC schedule, that's not a recipe for success.
No. All right, our last week 1 matchup we want to talk about tonight: Florida versus Miami. I believe this is a neutral site football game, or is this at Miami?
I think.
I'll
if it's Miami, it's still a neutral site football game. They don't fill there.
That's a good shot, right?
Sorry, Miami.
It's a valid point.
You don't have to apologize for that. Miami fans know the deal.
Yeah.
Miami fans also blame it on the commute. Do you know it's a 45-minute bus ride?
Yeah, it's like a 45-minute ride.
Those players have to get dressed at the campus and then hop on a bus on game day, travel 45 minutes in Miami traffic to Hard Rock Stadium.
Imagine being a student for
what
that.
What an elite game day environment.
No. No. I talked about liking bus rides. Did not like that. Did not like the idea of a 45-minute game day bus ride. Just talking about peak nerves. Oh my God.
I hated bus rides.
Peak nerves in those moments. All right, who's got more to lose, Florida or Miami in this ballgame?
It's Florida for sure. I mean, Florida realistically is going to go 0-7 to close the year out. Like, you have to get wins while you can, and a win against Miami is one of the more doable things to accomplish on this schedule. Not to mention that losing to Miami, or Miami losing would hurt Miami.
That game's at Bing Hill Griffin.
Oh, it's in Florida?
Yep, the game's
Florida
at
has
Florida.
absolutely more to lose than if you lose in front of your home stadium into a old-time rival, in-state rival, things are going to get very sour for Billy Napier. Miami can lose that game and still have everything ahead of them. The expectation for Miami is, hey, we have to win the ACC, or at least compete for the ACC this year. You lose to Florida, you can still do that. You're still undefeated in the ACC. Florida, on the other hand, you're going to struggle to get 6 wins this year, and you need to get as many as you can in those first 6 weeks. So I would say if Florida loses, they're in deep shit.
Yeah, I mean, if Billy Napier messes around and loses to Miami in the swamp, oof, you might be cooked at the very beginning of the season, but if you let that happen. But I think too, with Miami's schedule, if they lose to Florida, there's still plenty of opportunity for you to get to 10 wins if you have a successful season and continue to build on that. Whereas Florida, I mean, you lose week 1, you got Murderers Row ahead of you. It is nonstop with that schedule. So I think that Florida does have more to lose just because of the circumstances of you can't lose to one of your biggest rivals in the state to start off a season where there's a whole lot of question marks around your program. And you also can't lose that football game because there's not very many wins that you can find on that schedule. So the ones that you can get, like against Miami, you need to absolutely capitalize off of those.
I'm trying to look at these like, yeah, they're going to win that games on this Florida schedule.
Sanford in week 2 was the only one I could really find.
At Mississippi State, I'm giving you that one.
Yeah,
they should be able to win that.
They should be able to do that. At UCF, well, no, they get UCF at home.
They
should win that football game.
They should win.
They should win that football game.
But it's not, I wouldn't call it a gimme. It's not Sanford.
But they should, is what I'm saying. And then you're right. The end of that schedule is L6.
They're going 0-7 or 1-6.
They might nab Kentucky at Kentucky on homecoming.
I can see that.
They could. But other than that
game's always close.
Man, I wouldn't even take that interim job if they offered it to me. Georgia at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. No thank you. No thank you. Why would I just set myself up to never get a head coaching job ever? Holy smokes. Who would be the interim down there? Probably the OC that he hasn't named,
or Armstrong.
He's named 3 assistant head coaches.
They've got 15,
but
people
8 got an OC. Man, Florida. It's tough for them. I would say Florida has more to lose in that football game if they lose.
And that's why I keep getting baffled at these takes where people are saying it's not a hard schedule. You guys are just looking at the logos too much, and you're not like they're like if Georgia had this schedule, nobody would be saying anything.
Bullshit.
Bull crap. If Georgia had that schedule to close out the year, everybody would be talking about like, can Georgia finish the schedule against that? This is Florida. This is not someone that has the highest odds to win the national title this year.
Speaking of Florida, they finally did it, boys.
What'd they do?
After numerous public incidences of embarrassment of them not having enough players on the field during special teams moments, they have finally put what we call a personnel pad on the sideline. What is a personnel pad? A personnel pad is exactly what it sounds like. It is a pad with 11 dots on it that you put right at the 50-yard line, okay, right inside the coach's box to make sure every time you run out there for special teams, you got 11 guys on the field. Now, this might sound like something that is elementary, and you would be correct. Every football team I've ever seen, from middle school, hell, elementary school, all the way up until college football and into the pro ranks, has a box over on the sideline with 11 dots on the son of a bitch. Why? So they don't have 10 guys running onto the field. Now, kudos to our man Billy down there for instituting the personnel pad. But I got multiple concerns here. One, why the hell did it take so long? Okay, because after the first embarrassment, after running 10 guys on the field, 9 guys on the field during a field goal unit, we definitely should have had it on the field the next week. Okay, that's my first thought process is how in the world did the oversight allow for this to slip through the cracks for 9 months? The very first game against Utah, he had one of these very famous moments, right? Week 2, it should have been on the sideline. It was not. Week 1 now, after 10 football games, 11 football games last year, after their first moment of embarrassment, they proceed to have multiple moments of embarrassment after which, still no personnel pad. Now, they're going to have one on the sideline per reports. That's great. Why in the hell did it take so long? Probably because he's drinking from a fire hose in every other facet of being a head football coach, while also still trying to maintain offensive coordinating and play calling duties. We've told you over and over again, it's just too much. It's just too much to put onto your plate to not expect the idea that things like personnel pads aren't going to slip through the cracks after you've rolled 9 guys out on the field multiple times. If the personnel pad's falling through the cracks, what else is, Billy? That's what we've been screaming from the mountaintops over and over again. That's my first concern. My other concern is perhaps even more daunting because for 9, 10, 11 months we've gone without this suggestion coming up in the building. Hey, coach, we had 9 guys run on the field last week against Utah. I got this brilliant idea. Every school that I've ever coached for had a pad on the sideline with 11 dots on it, and we had somebody over there counting up, making sure we had everybody. Well, by God, Jimmy, that's a fucking brilliant idea. We should promote you. What? Where was the suggestions? So one of two things. Billy is either surrounded by people who are completely afraid to give him any type of suggestion like this, which is bad, or Billy is surrounded by people who didn't bring up the suggestion for 10 months. That's worse. I don't know what it is. It's all about, it sounds like I'm making a big fuss about a little bullshit thing on the sideline, but this is a game of making sure little bullshit is taken care of. That's all I got to say. It's about making sure that when your starting gunner is fucking winded and he's tapping his helmet coming off the sideline, that the 2 knows he's up.
Here we go.
You
haven't had one of those in a while.
No, because it's so goddamn, it's so elementary. It is so rudimentary to the sport of football. And this guy stands up in front of everybody every single time and they're talking about, Billy, are you going to give up play calling duties? And he's like, we were good on offense last year. Coach, you were great on offense. You were awesome. You made Graham Mertz play better than he's ever played in his goddamn life. You were awesome. But y'all were terrible in other facets of the game. And it is your job as the head coach to make sure you are not.
Plus, Special teams is the one area of the football game where you can't have stupid mistakes, because those stupid mistakes are what cost you points. They cost you first downs when you had them 4th and 5. You had them stop dead in their tracks, and it's a pivotal possession in the football game where if you go down the field and score, momentum shifts. Like, that is the one area of the football game where it is so infuriating to see mistakes, because it's usually dumb, simple mistakes like, dude, don't run into the kicker. Dude, make sure you got enough guys out there. Like, those things like that, and they cost you football games.
This situation to me, I think, perfectly illustrates what has been going wrong with that program for however long you want to say now, where it takes 3 seasons for someone to finally, whether it's say, okay, we need to do this, someone to finally suggest it, or to just accept that, all right, fine, we're going to put this down, a rubber mat on the sidelines so you have 11 players on the field. The most basic thing in football is just, like they say, half the job is just showing up. You have to put 11 players on the field to do that, and the fact that they've been able to consistently mess this up is such bad optics, and the fact that you're just now putting down this mat is not good either.
I haven't seen. I'm gonna look for it this year. I'm gonna find the ones, and I'm gonna bring it to the show. I'm gonna find the one football team that doesn't have the personnel pad on the sideline, because I haven't seen it. I have not. I have not seen a football team that is so caught up in looking at the trees, or whatever the saying is. What is it? Looking at the thing and you miss the forest. Looking at the trees, you miss the forest. Whatever. Their oversight is just dramatic. It's just so many things that they're missing through the cracks because they're just focused on the wrong things, or too focused on one thing and not seeing the rest of it, is what it seems to be. But we're going to find out who's not using a personnel pad. We're going to cook them because it's so simple. Can't see the forest through the trees. The boys got me there. Should we give them 3?
Let's do it.
Got some time here. Let's give them 3. The idea that nobody suggested it to him is crazy.
I mean, there's also the possibility that someone did suggest, and you're like, we don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. We're good.
Coach, it don't cost nothing. It doesn't impede anybody's process. He's been on numerous staffs. This has been a part of football. Raise your hand. If in the chat right now, raise your hand if you've played on a football team and seen a personnel pad with the dots on the sideline. God dang, I played high school football in 2009 and we had one of the sumbitches on the sideline. It's crazy. Let's give them 3. 3 biggest storylines going into the 2024 college football season. Who wants to start first?
You should go first because you have the best one.
I do have the big ones. I stole them
I don't know.
off
I
from
think
you.
I got good ones.
I got some OLIs.
I don't have.
Did I only tell you
You
the
and
3?
these damn OLIs.
Dude, I'm big into the OLI because you know what? The 3's not good enough for me. Sometimes I want 5.
All right, then
That's why OLI is pertinent.
I got
then you're
3
going to go last in
hard
case.
count good ones.
I'll go
Our
last, and
OLIs
then you guys
overlap.
can go first because I got them.
I got 3 hard capped.
Hard capped.
First one, Kalen DeBoer in Alabama football. I mean, that is Sunday evening dinner conversation every single weekend after Saturday. Hey, did you catch the Alabama game? What'd you think about Kalen DeBoer? What'd you think about Jalen Milroe? Do you think that he's going to be the next Nick Saban at this place? That is going to be an ongoing conversation no matter what happens. Whether they're great, whether they suck, it is going to be one of the biggest conversations of this football season. And I don't know who, but somebody's going to give a hot take about Alabama this season. It's going to happen very early on.
Very early on.
It's going to happen.
What wasn't a hot take that seemed like a hot take that actually landed on potentially the correct take was when Kirby came on this show after the USF game and was like, Saban's done. That guy is cooked. Did you see him walking into the tunnel? And then he proceeds to basically, then he proceeds to end Georgia's national championship title hopes and go on and play in a Final Four. And then, so you were wrong, but then he retired. So technically you were right.
I did say it was Saban's last year.
You did.
And I did begrudgingly also say that Bama would beat Georgia in the SEC championship.
Man, you did. You went full heel turn last year.
I did.
Can't wait to see what's in store this year. What else you got?
My second one, there's kind of some stipulations with it, but I don't think it's going to matter because I think there's a very good chance it happens. Dabo Swinney and Clemson are going to be closely monitored this year because now that the playoff has expanded to 12, this is kind of a true testament of Dabo Swinney's model of what Clemson football is, and it's a true test of where exactly are you. It's okay that you didn't make the top 4 the past couple of years. You got 2 titles, but now we're at 12. We got 12 spots for you to make this playoff. You should be a top 12 football team. We'll see if this no transfer portal thing matters to you, if it actually matters in college football. Plus, the ACC is down right now, so it should still be a time where the Clemson Tigers have reign over this conference. So I think it's a massive year for Dabo. Not putting him on the hot seat or anything like that, but if we get another year of Dabo Swinney and Clemson kind of being lackadaisical and not being one of these premier programs anymore, bigger conversations are going to emerge out of this. And then my third one, just the hot seat monitor. I think there's a lot of big names this year where everybody's going to be putting the temperature gauge to them after every single weekend. Like we just talked about one with Billy Napier. Dave Aranda, you can put it to him right now. It's at 150 degrees. He is burning hot. He's probably going to be fired this year. Shane Beamer is another one of these. And Lincoln Riley now is feeling like he's going to be one of these. And then more are going to emerge throughout the year as they always do. Sam Pittman can be thrown on this list. But the hot seat, I mean, it's going to, I think that conversation is going to pick up very fast early on.
Smoldering.
Yes.
Smoldering hot seat. You kind of hit on one of my OLIs, so I'll hit it right here. The Florida job opening up, I think, is a whale just waiting around. I think people realize that's a top 10 job in college football. You're in the SEC, you're in the Florida footprint, you have the history of the program. Obviously, there's been signs that the booster base can be engaged with the right type of football coach. It's your job to direct it in the correct places. I think that might be some of the shortcomings of the current staff, but the initial buy-in and the initial surge of funds and resources made available to Billy was obvious when he first got there. It has since dwindled because the performances have. But when that job becomes available, I think it is going to be a real heavy hitter type search. No different than, if a Georgia were to come available. I don't know if it's as big as a job as Georgia, because I think Georgia, proximity to talent, history, all that good stuff, name, brand value, what Kirby has done to it now. It's a top 3, top 5 program and top 5 job nowadays. But Florida was at that point at some point, and they could certainly return. I think that's a massive storyline in college football, especially the moment it happens, which I think it's pretty good chance he ends up getting cooked. Hey, that boy Jay Will, give him 3. What do you got for us, Curb?
All right, so the first one I have is that Michigan and Washington are returning basically nothing from the two teams that played in the national title last year. I think that's going to be a big watch. And of course, all this thing surrounding Michigan, there's going to be a lot of eyes on that team this year to see what they do coming into 2024. My second one is Ole Miss and Ohio State putting all their chips in on 2024. I don't think we've ever really seen an example of teams where they've gone all out, whether it's the transfer portal, whether it's recruiting, NIL, all those things, and sell out so much to succeed in one season. I think that's going to be very interesting, and there's obviously going to be talking points throughout the season. Hey, is Ohio State looking like the team that we all think they should be? Is Ole Miss going to be competing for a national title at the end of the season like the roster states that they should be? Those are going to be two very interesting things. And then this one, I think in the midst of the college football video game coming out, conference realignment, all the other crazy things that have happened this offseason, we kind of forgot about this. We won't have the SEC on CBS this year. That's going to suck, and I think that hasn't been really talked about. There's going to be a lot of people come week one when they don't hear the intro and be like, oh, damn, that's right. We don't have this anymore. So they
changed it for the Big Ten, too. They didn't use the same one.
Good. They keep it.
Yeah.
That should be my alarm in the morning. In high school, that's why I would get up at 5:30.
Man, you were just manifesting destiny, weren't you?
I'd love
I am going to work in sports media.
Oh, yeah.
CBS intro. Get your ass out of bed, son. Hey, that boy Christian Kirby. 3? That boy Christian Kirby. Give him 3. All right. Got some OLIs. Already hit on it. Florida waiting around. I think that's the best job of all the hot seats, except for if USC is really indeed a hot seat. All right. If that thing is fireable, then that becomes immediately the biggest job available. Right after that is Florida. So we'll see what happens down there in Gainesville. Brooks, you still think Lane Kiffin is going to be the next coach at Florida? Great time to ask that question, Aiden Cruz. Yeah, I think there's a possibility. I also think there's a possibility they throw the book at Eli Drinkwitz once that job becomes available. I think a lot of people will call and ask about that job. And I think whoever doesn't get the Florida job ultimately settles for the South Carolina job. How about that?
What's the probability of a guy like Schumann fielding calls for this?
I'm going to stand by. I don't think Schumann wants to be a head coach.
I don't either.
Not right now. That's what I'm going to stand on. I'm going to stand 10 toes down on that one. All right, other outside looking in storyline. The pressure on Ryan Day. You know, I think it's just something that'll be fun to watch all year long. Watch him, you know, and watch the stock of Just for Men go through the damn roof, because my man's going to be stressing out the wazoo, and that die is just going to need more and more coverage, more and more often, because everyone knows, as a graying man myself, the more stressed we become, the more those gray hairs rear their ugly heads. So Just for Men stock going up. Pressure gauge as well out there in Ohio State. Paying attention to that one. Number 3, the 12-team college football playoff expansion. Does it change the regular season and how the regular season goes about? The anticipation, the build, the nut cuttingness, if you will, of college football that we used to have. The oh my God, a national title contender's about to go down. Are we still going to have that? And when does that fall? Does that start to fall in October, November, December? Because we know they're going to be allotted at least an additional loss, or maybe you don't have to be perfect anymore. So that one loss doesn't hurt as much, because now the bar kind of seems to be 2 losses. So how much does the expansion of the 12-team playoff actually impact college football? Do more teams midway through the season feel like they actually have a chance? Because that's what we've been told. That's what we've been sold, right? We go to 12, more teams got a chance. Anybody's game type vibes, right? Oh, this is going to open up the potential for more teams to feel like they have an opportunity to make the playoff. How does this play out in college football this fall? I'm super excited to pay attention to it. And then number 2 on the list, conference shakeups, right? Whether it be Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC, whether it be Oregon and USC and Washington and UCLA going to the Big Ten. I don't give a shit about the ACC. I'm not watching ACC football. I don't care that SMU's in it. I do care how those 2 massive conferences, how they absorb those 6 massive college football brands. Really paying attention to Oklahoma, because I know Texas is ready for this. I don't know if Oklahoma and Brent Venables is, to be 100% honest with you. That is a storyline I'm paying attention to really, really closely. And I can't believe I did it, but I did it, and it has to be on the storylines because everyone's going to be talking about it. Deion Sanders, Colorado. Are they any good? Are they dog shit? Is this the last year? All of those things will be talked about ad nauseum this year with Colorado. Again, it is going to be a massive storyline. That boy Brooks, give him 3. What do we think, boys?
I hate how right you are about the Deion Sanders thing.
It is what it is, man. We talk national college football. We're going to have to talk about Deion this year.
But also, I don't mind it.
I don't either. But that's because you don't mind dunking on him. But I don't know if everyone will be loving, heaping praise on Deion.
No, because it's made people care about a sector of college football that didn't get a lot of attention or hasn't gotten a lot of attention historically. Like, people weren't actively watching Pac-12 football like that. Like, you had true-hearted fans that were watching, but you didn't have casual football fans staying up till midnight to watch a Pac-12 game. You had that last year with Colorado and Deion Sanders. So I think the flair that he adds is kind of nice to college football.
I love that they've made a North Dakota State game relevant this year.
Yeah.
I love that.
Exactly.
I think that's going to be fun.
For them?
For me. Just for fans in general.
I love that he acknowledged that he knew it was going to be a sweater.
Yeah.
He basically said, I had a conversation with our AD about getting a cupcake game, not one that we actually got to play 4 quarters in. Eli Drinkowitz is not a good coach. It's a premature take. Just like it's a premature take to say he's a great coach. I think right now we know he's a good coach.
Wait and see mode.
7-5, 10-2. We gonna see.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
we gonna see.
I think the determination of whether or not he's a great coach happens actually next year. Because if he goes 10-2 again this year, he's just a good coach. If he goes 10-2 the year after that, he's a great coach
for sure.
Right.
You know, if he lasts that long out there. All right. Any other thoughts on the Give 'em 3 segment? Did we miss any storylines? Nico at Tennessee.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. South Carolina's hot seat, but you already hit on hot seats as a whole.
I think the same can be said for Jackson Arnold in Oklahoma
and Oregon.
I think that's a major storyline.
Just Florida State's entire rebuild will be interesting to see.
Yeah,
they have so much to rebuild. I see a ton of people. They're the ACC favorite right now to win the conference. It's a little wild to me. It just tells me the rest of the conference is down.
You also have to expect that the rest of the media is going to kind of paint this season as the revenge tour, so to speak. So I mean,
Georgia.
No, for Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, that's going to be very interesting. They're going to be harping on that where, hey, you know, the team that was left out of the college football playoff last year trying to get their way back to it. So
I think there's going to be somewhat of a storyline of Kyle McCord and Will Howard. I mean, as soon as you replace someone and they go somewhere else after being the starter, you're tied together at the hip for that next season. So there's going to be a conversation and a storyline of, well, Kyle McCord did this weekend and Will Howard did this. Did they make the right or wrong decision? Like, eventually that's going to pop up.
Same thing for Buddy at Kansas State. You know, I know Will Howard left because he wanted to leave, but Avery Johnson there was rumors in Manhattan, you know, the Little Apple as they call it. There was rumors out there in Manhattan, Kansas, they're like, hey, Will Howard can F off. We got this other guy. We like this other guy. So it'll be interesting. A lot of storylines around college football to be paying attention to. All right, Jay Will, take it away. Could Tennessee be a victim of bad timing? What do you got?
Yeah, this segment originated because...
Listen up, Chris Foster.
Because I want to preface this because I know that we do have Tennessee fans in here, so I don't want them thinking that this is my time where I'm hammering down of Tennessee fans need to be worried. But it came to my mind because you and I had this conversation about how Tennessee could realistically be 1 year away from actually breaking this door open and really getting things rolling up in Knoxville because of what surrounds college football in 2025 and the amount of questions, whereas Tennessee feels like they have a lot more answers than most. But then I had this thought of they might be doing this at the wrong time because Tennessee Volunteer fans have remained true to this program for the last decade when things have been very tough, and they've had to do a lot of waiting for their program to get to this point where it seems like you can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're getting that point because Nico is your quarterback and there's these great recruiting classes coming in. But at the same time, Auburn, who has also been down for quite a bit since they played Georgia in the SEC championship game in 2017, they look to be on the rise now with Hugh Freeze, and they're getting good recruiting classes in. Georgia going to be on top. Kalen DeBoer is recruiting his butt off at Alabama, so Alabama doesn't like they're going anywhere. Brian Kelly has LSU remaining competitive and remaining as one of the upper tier teams in college football. Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, if they remain together and this season go as plans, and Lane Kiffin can keep rolling that, Ole Miss is going to remain at the top as well. I mean, there are so many football teams like Drinkowitz. We were just talking about him. If he goes 10-2 this year and next year, Missouri is now one of these teams. So while Tennessee is finally getting to this point where they might reach the top of the mountain, a lot of other teams in the SEC are also reaching the top of that mountain, along with teams that have already been there. So they might be a victim of bad timing of like, hey, that's great, Josh Heupel. You have Nico in year 2. You have a lot of other great assets around him, like Mike Matthews at wide receiver coming into year 2. But everybody else has also caught up to you by now because it's taken this long. So your window of opportunity just got shortened because everybody else's window of opportunity is open.
Yeah, but their window of opportunity lengthens by 3 years the moment George McIntyre shows up on campus, in my opinion.
Sure.
And in Josh Heupel's opinion. Like, their window for winning is drastically longer because they've signed the 2 guys that they had to sign. That offense had to sign Nico Amalieva.
Yes.
That offense had to sign George McIntyre. And they're going to do exactly that. And the chat's already hitting it. They got Faison Brandon coming as well. And I don't believe in Brandon as much as I do the other 2 guys, but they ain't short on quarterback play, Bubba.
Sure.
And if you got dudes at that position, you got a chance to win.
And that's great and all, but there could be great quarterback play in the SEC too.
100%.
So your great quarterback play could very well be matched by other programs who have great quarterback play. But that is a key component. We say it all the time of being a national title contender. So you have that box checked for the foreseeable future with Josh Heupel. And again, I do think that Tennessee is just kind of one of these ones, like next year, I think is going to be the year where you should really pound the Tennessee Volunteers as a major threat in the college football playoff. But I also just think that with everything that's happened in the SEC, and I just think that it may not be as wide open as you would have liked to have been at this point when you get here.
This reminds me a lot of, and this is going to sound very homerish, but it reminds me a lot of Georgia in the late 2000s when they really had that peak under Mark Richt with the Matthew Stafford, no Sean Marino years. Yeah, those were great Georgia teams that were capable of winning a national title, but then you had to deal with a Nick Saban-led Alabama team that was just starting to rise. Florida was at their absolute best under Urban Meyer. South Carolina had Steve Spurrier. They were still very much a thorn in your side. Tennessee had Phil Fulmer. Auburn was still a very good team. So you just had a bunch of teams around you kind of also peak around you. So it hindered your ability to truly compete for national titles. playoffs. Now having a 12-team playoff helps this a little bit. You can go 10-2 and you're still in the mix. So I don't know if it's necessarily bad timing in that regard. It might be the right timing just because you can now go 10-2 and still compete for national titles. But I do get what you're saying, where it seems like everyone else is getting better just as Tennessee's getting better.
I mean, Tennessee hasn't won at this rate and hasn't recruited at this rate in your lifetime.
In our lifetimes, yeah.
In your lifetimes. The last time they did it, I was 5. Okay, under Big Fat Phil, and now things are returning under a guy who, ironically, kind of resembles Phil Fulmer. Doesn't look like him in the face, but as a fellow round and rotund man myself,
I was going to say he looks slim at SEC Media Days.
He has. Now, he was wearing the same suit 2 years in a row. That's a no. You make $7 million a year. You should not be wearing the same suit.
But at this point, it's a good bit. Like, do it every year now.
He ain't doing a bit. He's doing football coach.
Do it every year now, though.
All right, maybe. But I've been talking about it. I mean, at least I've seen our Tennessee side on SI write about it. This is the best Tennessee football's been in 2 decades.
Yep. Mm-hmm. For
Auburn's on the rise. Alabama seems to be doing what they need to do to maintain their superiority. Brian Kelly seems to have provided some at least stability at LSU. Georgia's there. Texas just came into the conference, and Sark looks like he's building something crazy. This is a great conference, and it's only getting better. That is the point to be made there.
Yep, absolutely.
I just want to mention this. It's something I'm going to keep tabs on, and I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm saying my spidey senses are tingling, and as someone who's very passionate about football players and very passionate about athletes, I thought it should be mentioned. Ethan Boyd started 3 games at Michigan State last year, played in all 12. Ethan Boyd entered the transfer portal last December, announced that he was transferring to Colorado. I found an article yesterday that just out of nowhere said Ethan Boyd will not be attending Colorado. I'm just going to put it there. I'm just going to put it right there that a Power 4 starter made his intentions known that he was going to go to Colorado and transfer there. And now all of a sudden he ain't showing up. And I don't know where Ethan Boyd is playing his collegiate football this fall. Maybe he is back on a Michigan State roster. I don't know that to be true. I'm not saying anything happened. What I am saying, and my threats don't mean nothing, my promises don't mean jack shit. What I am saying is that if Ethan Boyd entered the transfer portal, was told he had a spot at Colorado, announced that he was transferring to Colorado, intended to transfer to Colorado, left his football team at Michigan State, only to be told he didn't have a spot, if that's what happened, that's wrong. And people need to talk about it. I don't know that to be the case. I'm just saying, if it is, we're going to be talking. We'll see you in 45 seconds. We're going to do some more talking about them dogs.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog? What's up? You like that? You really like that? Let's shut up and grab some tape.
Still no real clarifications on the rod wave discussion. We've not established where
there's R&B artists out there like SZA. Do you know who SZA is?
I do know who SZA is, and she ain't making bops.
I get to go see some real R&B in 2 weeks.
Who?
Usher.
Okay. Ain't made fresh music since 2000.
That's fine. The hit's still hitting.
It's still bopping.
The hit's still hitting.
But if SZA is our best suggestion.
The Weeknd, Miguel.
That's pop music on the Weeknd.
I could see The Weeknd.
Anderson .Paak. That's R&B.
But yeah, I mean,
it's R&B, but it ain't like mainstream. Like Buddy ain't on the top charts. Is what I'm saying.
Silk Sonic's album was on the charts when they dropped. Do you not know?
SZA slander is crazy. It is not crazy.
Sis
This is
good,
what I'm
bro.
saying.
What?
This is what I'm saying. I grew up in a generation where R&B was the pop music.
Yeah, it was a prominent genre.
It was the prominent genre. And then it became hip hop and rap because of Lil Wayne. And then it went into pop music because of people like Taylor Swift and Drake. And now we've just subsided with R&B music, except for Rod Wave.
I'm not going to drag out.
You think I'm just giving too much credit to Mans, and that's okay.
I'm not going to drag out this argument because we've got a show, but I vehemently disagree.
Okay, fair. That's 100% fair. You know who's been on a disagreement run here? Lincoln Riley and Kirby Smart.
Dude, I know.
But they've also kind of had an agreement.
Button heads here.
Because they agree on the recruits, obviously.
Yeah.
They agree on the talent.
Correct.
But they don't agree on who should get them.
Correct. So let's start here. Jaden Perlotti flipped to USC. Jaden Perlotti was like 3 weeks ago about to flip to Tennessee. And June 17th, I think, is when we put it on Patreon.
Yeah.
So over a month ago, we told our subscribers that Georgia's just, I'm not going to say done, but Georgia's moving on from the Jaden Perlotti sweepstakes. And that was with him as a commit. So it was just a matter of time before he found a new home. It was maybe I go to Tennessee, and now it's I'm going to USC, and that's great. And this is what I think Lincoln Riley should do. All right, this is what I think Lincoln Riley should do. Lincoln Riley should do what everybody else that can't win battles against Georgia does here in the state of Georgia. They should come here and pick up the scraps. They should pick up what's left off the heap. They should not be trying to get into 1v1 quick scope death matches with the daggum sweat that is Kirby Smart. All right, that's not what you do. If you know you aren't him, don't get into battles with him. All right, and this predates Lincoln out there, okay? Because Clay Helton got stuffed in a locker too. Michael Williams and Kristen Miller. Clay Helton thought he had it. Clay Helton was like, "Whoo! Look at this 5-star edge rusher we got from Columbus, Georgia, buddy." That dude was never ever ending up at USC ever. You were never going to win that one. You are way too far from home. You did not have proximity to him. You were not going to be in his ear talking the sweet nothings as often as Georgia was. It just wasn't going to happen. And Lincoln Riley takes the job, and Lincoln Riley thinks, you know what's a great idea? Let's go down to Warner Robins, Georgia, and see if we can mess around with Isaiah Gibson. Buddy, huh? You think that's a good idea? No, it is not. There are so many connections to the University of Georgia at Warner Robins, most notably Josh Crawford. Josh Crawford is from Warner Robins, the running backs coach, okay? There are so many connections. You are not going to come down into this territory and win big dog recruitments. Justice Terry decommitted from USC. I wonder why. All right, because Georgia's in the mix and Alabama's in the mix. You're not beating those two programs for a kid from Manchester, Georgia. You're just not doing it. All right, what you might be able to do is pick up the scrap heaps. Come in here, find the 3-star that would be a 5-star out there in California, or find the 3-star defensive tackle that has a body type that doesn't exist out in California. But here's the problem. That everybody's got that take. Why are you battling Kirby Smart? You're going to get your ass beat. Everyone's got that take. Here's the real take. Here's the one that's absolutely killing Lincoln Riley out there in California. All right, because Justice Terry hurts when he ultimately flips and goes somewhere else. Isaiah Gibson hurts. It definitely does. Okay, the Dominic Kelly commitment, the kid from Bradenton, Florida, that just flipped from USC to Georgia in the 2026 class, those hurt. But what's really killing Lincoln Riley right now is what I'm about to lay down for you right now. The J.J. Hayne commitment to Georgia yesterday, that one hurts. That's a kid that plays high school football in California, has been transplanted from Germany by way of Nigeria into your backyard, and he's coming back clear across the country to go to Georgia. That kills. You know what else kills? Dejon Lee, the 5-star, number 1 ranked corner, going to Alabama. You know what else kills? 4 out of the top 5 players in the state of California going to Texas A&M. You know what really kills Lincoln Riley? Stop spending time thinking you're going to land Isaiah Gibson and do something in your own damn state, which, by the way, has the 4th highest rated NFL per capita, rate of production of talent in the entire country. You have 3 of the top 20 players in the state of California committed to USC right now in 2025. Washington has just as many as you. That's your problem. Quit coming around in this backyard fighting with the big boys when you can't even protect your own.
The only reason I can think that Lincoln Riley would be doing this is because he has come upon more funds through the NIL means to recruit, and he's now got the mentality of, well, we need defensive players. We can go out and just try to buy all the big names, and you're not going to succeed in doing that. And I don't think Lincoln Riley's recruiting, correct me if I'm wrong, his recruiting background isn't necessarily elite. Like, his development of quarterback talent and offensive scheming is elite, but when it comes to recruiting, I don't think he's one of the top premier guys.
He had the leftover organizational structure that Bob Stoops left at Oklahoma.
Right.
And in his final years at Oklahoma, he recruited at a top 8 level.
Okay.
So, but the organizational structures were there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He didn't have to fuck with the recruiting department. He didn't have to hire the director of player personnel. He didn't have to set the defensive structural board. He didn't have to do those things for the first 2 years. And then the moment the signs were there that he had to, he dipped ship and went out to West, to USC. You ain't got much for me on that one, huh?
I mean, no, you gave it a good run there for a little bit. I was trying to think of a similar situation in college football that Lincoln Riley should adapt. I kind of thought about Eli Drinkowitz in Missouri, of how you don't really hear of Eli Drinkowitz in Missouri coming in, trying to get into the state of Georgia, trying to take recruits from Georgia. But when Georgia's trying to get a commit from the state of Missouri, like Luther Burden, boarded up. That kid is ours. We don't let those go. That's what Lincoln Riley needs to be doing with California, of stay in your little hemisphere of in your section of the United States. But when Georgia wants to come to California, or Alabama, or whoever tries to come to California to get that 5-star, 4-star in your state, or even a 3-star, don't let that happen. Like, you shouldn't be letting that happen. Quit trying to broaden your focus too much to where you're losing track of what's happening in your home state, and just focus on what's happening in your home state while also making sure you're putting together competent recruiting classes.
And Eli's doing that in St. Louis alone. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm just going to board up St. Louis and the guys that I want.
Yeah.
You should be doing that tenfold in California.
Right.
Tenfold. There's so much more of a talent pool out there. And this guy's doing Jack Diddley with his own in-state prospects. That's not great.
No, I mean, part of the excitement around Lincoln Riley going to USC was, oh my God, he's going to finally have a program with a big name to it. He's going to be in a state where there's so much talent. And it doesn't seem like he's putting any effort into recruiting that state where all the talent is. He's chasing all these other guys that you're likely not going to land. Yeah, you just flip Perlaia. That's great, but you've missed on a couple of other big name recruits. So, and oh, by the way, your state is now getting torn apart by all the other teams. So, you reading chat?
I'm getting flamed for my Rod Wave opinions by the one musical opinion in the chat that I respect. I'm receiving text messages, not looking at the chat. Active text messages during the show. I'll read them to you afterwards because they're not fit for air. But yeah, not happy with my Rod Wave R&B takes are the chat, but you know, it is what it is. This Lincoln Riley thing, I'm closer and closer to being on the Feinbaum side of things, where I think he's just cooked. He's got 14 commits in the 2025 class.
It's not a good look.
There are no signs of improvement anywhere near, unless he pulls a miracle out and wins like 10 or 11 games this year. And by the way, it's gone real quiet as of late. But we're still not 100% certain that he's going to sign Julian Lewis. And if he doesn't, what the hell is he doing? Where's he going? Who's he going to be his quarterback? You're going to do the Jalen or the Maeva thing for a year and then hope and pray you find someone at 26? I don't know what the plan is here, man. I really don't.
And too, like, the only example I can really think of where Lincoln Riley beat out Georgia for one of these high-end prospects, I'm just thinking Georgia because this is Georgia hour, Deuce Robinson, the tight end.
Yeah. San Diego kid, boarded up. Can't do it.
Waiting on it.
Still waiting on it to pop, too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he was a true freshman last year.
I understand that. He had 4 catches last year, and it says he's going to be will look to be a meaningful contributor in the receiving game this year. Make that one pop, make that one shine, because that's kind of what you're clinging on to right now when it comes to these conversations.
And it sounds like he is getting in the mix. Chat's correct here. It sounds like he's trying to get in the mix with Hassan Longstreet, which even coming up off of that and moving over to Longstreet tells you exactly what they think about what's going to happen with Juju. Because I don't know if y'all have noticed, and I can say this freely and not feel bad about saying it. Julian Lewis doesn't want anybody else in his class. Julian Lewis doesn't want you recruiting anybody else. Julian Lewis don't want you talking to anybody else. That's been very, very apparent throughout this entire process. So that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. The fact that they're even picking up the phone and getting involved with this on Longstreet, like we believe them to be doing, tells you where they think they are with Julian. And it ain't good news.
That's not good news. My question on this from the Georgia side is, does this kind of create where Kirby Smart kind of goes spitefully after Lincoln, like presses California more?
No, I don't think so. I think the Dominic Kelly recruitment, and he's not even a Cali kid. He was committed to USC. He's a Florida kid. He was at IMG Academy. I think he's transferring back up to St. Mary's, or I got it in my DMs today. Nonetheless, he's an East Coast kid. He's going to Chaminade Madonna, where Jeremiah Smith played. So that's where he's going this year. And that running back that committed to Georgia for 36 hours before mom said no. What was that? What was his name?
Oh,
it just happened this summer.
Yeah,
he committed. Mom said that's cap.
The running back, right?
Yeah, the running back that plays at Chaminade, but also plays safety all over the place. Nonetheless, that was just Dante knew the kid. Dante had a relationship with him. Dante flipped him. In terms of Cali, I don't think there's any spitefulness. I don't think he puts his board together like that. They put their board together, and they always have my best player available.
Valid.
And chances to land. They're not going to spend. They might rank a player higher, but if they know the kid's never going to come to Georgia, they're not going to spend recruiting time. They're not going to send the house and give the 50 hours worth of allotment points on the recruiting strategies.
It's a good joke.
It's a good joke.
That's a great one.
It's a good joke. Yeah, keep stuffing them in a locker, but I don't think it's that. It's not pointed.
Okay.
It's a
Derek Cooper.
It's by happenstance. What about Derek
That's
Cooper?
the player that you were thinking of, right? That's what their chat's saying. That sounds familiar.
What was I even thinking about? What were we
The
talking about?
player that committed to Georgia, mom said no.
Oh, yeah, sounds Derek Cooper. Sounds like it. I don't know. Is Derek Cooper the athlete that plays down Chaminade? If so, Derek
Trust
Cooper.
the chat on that one.
Trust the chat. Chat never fails.
Chat is clutch.
Chat is clutch. All right, DB Cooper. Where do we go next? Stuff them in a locker. 14
Well, we just talked
commits.
about Dom Kelly.
Let's watch some Dom Kelly highlights. I haven't seen this tape.
Me either.
Have y'all?
No, I didn't
Kirby, have
even
you watched
preview it
it?
at all.
Dom Kelly, I have not watched.
We don't
it
watch
yet.
corner tape very often. So
It's hard to watch.
This better be good. It's IMG tape though, so it should be really, really clean.
That does not look like IMG. Or actually, I take it back. Yeah, it does now.
What were you asking?
IMG got drones.
No, that doesn't look like IMG, does it?
No. I thought maybe the black unis. I was like, maybe.
All right, let's see here. Let's take a look at this tape. All right, he's on the far side. That's definitely not IMG. That's an Argonaut in the middle of the field. Some type of knight. They are the somethings. So this is what I'm talking about with corner play. Oh, great. Johnny made a play. I wonder how Johnny got there. I'm going to assume Johnny drove down on the route right here because he's out of the screen and then he undercuts. That's a great play, man. It's a great play. Can't see nothing. Sit on it. Oh, he's actually the other guy. Okay, made a play with the ball in the air. Seems like he's got some length here. Also seems very wiry. Seems thin in the ankles. Who's he playing with? I can't. It's Robinson High School, is what it says in the end zone.
Looks like it.
It's so hard to hard to see this stuff, man. This kid could be one of the greatest athletes they've ever recruited, and I wouldn't know because I can't tell based off the film. And he's going to dip out of the screen here. But he's going to come up and pop the pads. All right, that's good to know. At least we found out he's got some thump in the pads, and now we're going to see some special teams. I'm assuming he's returning here, or is he over here? That looks like him over there on kickoff. He's definitely on kickoff here. That's him playing against. Looks like that was the same guy that I pointed out. He's the gunner on the far side. And I know Dominic's probably watching right now because apparently is a listener of the show. I want to know more about what happened in the camp eval. What's been going on at camp? What did they see? Things like that. Because again, I can't. It's so hard for me to evaluate.
Not fair.
It's not fair to do anything here, good or bad. Here's what I will tell you. Plays for Elite Raw down there, the 7-on-7 in South Florida. I told you when the kid committed, you don't play corner for that organization unless you're one of the top 7 or 8 corners in the entire state of Florida. They just don't allow it. Everybody that's ever played there is an elite corner. You know how I know? Ellis Robinson was one of their last 2 corners. The other guy ended up playing Power 5 football. They just spit them out down there, and the best corners play for that 7-on-7 unit down there. So I feel good about his coverage capabilities. I feel good about his pop in the pads has shown up on tape. All the other stuff is an incomplete evaluation because of what we talked about the last time we talked about corners. I don't feel it's fair to evaluate these guys because Johnny goes out of the screen half the time.
That poses a...
Go ahead. Pose the question before we get the JJ Haney. It's actually pronounced Hane, from what I was told in the chat yesterday. Huh?
I thought it was Hunnen.
Where's the N come in from in the backside of that?
I thought that's what was messaged. Was like, despite how it's spelled, this is how it's pronounced.
I read the fanatical spelling in our YouTube comments last night. Hane.
Either way. Tape like that, which, I mean, that's the majority of quarterback tape, unfortunately, on Huddle. How do colleges evaluate?
They don't.
How do they decide to put a player on the board beforehand? Because you obviously have to find out about these guys before you go to do in-person evaluations, before you have them camp for you. So how do you find out if that's the best evaluation you have at the introduction?
You don't. You have to know that this kid is a potential evaluation guy when he's 14, 15, 16 years old. And you have to know that because you have to go see him in person to evaluate this, because no high school, apart from Tyson Campbell and Pat Surtain, no high school kid has highlight tapes good enough at corner to just be a takeoff tape. They have to come in, they have to camp, they have to prove that they can do the things that they need to do.
So is it far-fetched to say that cornerback is one of the hardest positions to evaluate, other than quarterback
and cornerback are, in my opinion, by far the hardest positions to evaluate. Georgia might push back on this at defensive back because they're so athletic, measurably based, right? Where there's just certain thresholds. You have to be this tall, you have to weigh this, and you have to run this fast. Or you have to be such a great football player that we just don't care, Ja'Cory Thomas. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, you have to be able to, Javon Bullard, you have to be able to do these things on tape or in person that we just, forfeit the physical measurements that we're actually looking for.
Okay.
You want to look at JJ Hane?
Yes.
We should call him JJ.
How about JJH, like you do with...
Well, we have a JJ8. I don't want to confuse the sound.
Just
family.
JJ.
All right. Pronouncing phonetical wrong is so ironic. Buddy, you know who you're listening to right now. Y'all know the deal by now. One thing I don't do is try to act smart. All right? If I'm dumb, I'm dumb. Let's watch this tape. Now, yesterday I told you this guy, his play style is that of a Tasmanian devil. All right? None of these, we're a big body patterns and movement patterns channel, okay? We want to see everything tight. We want to see everything efficient. We want to see your feet inside. Yeah, whoa. Hey, yo, producer.
Someone's changed the settings on my damn.
All right, we want to make sure we play with a good base. We want to make sure we're never outside of our base or we're never flailing or anything like that. This dude defies all of those rules and all of those concepts. This dude plays, like I said, a Tasmanian devil. All right, he is right here at nose tackle, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about off rip. All right, this dude is, he's at the 3 tech. This dude's all over the place all the time. He is just wreaking havoc. The arms and the legs and the feet are going to be flailing the entire film, because this is the first and only time I think this dude's ever played organized football. All right, he's going into his second full year of organized sports here in America, playing American football. And by the way, this is big time California football from my understanding. Those look like big 6'3" plus 300 pound plus Samoans that he's playing up against right there in Cali. So these ain't no little dudes and Timmys and Tylers that he's out here playing against. But you can see there's clear violence in this athlete.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know his full story. I know everyone says he's German. He's Nigerian. Okay, he's Nigerian, and he did his prep work up there in Germany before coming over to California. So you know me, a high ceiling athlete. I mean, even that, man, he's just firing off the ball. There is no unzipping of the feet once we get past the line of scrimmage. All right, the pad level's a little bit suspect. He's almost falling over, to be honest with you. There is never a moment where he unzips his feet and comes to balance. All right, those are things that can't happen on the next level. Those are also signs of a guy who's really never played, again, football. This is a guy who's just trying to figure it out at this moment. All right, and he's doing so really, really disruptively.
The way he plays the game does not say anything that he is in his second or third year. There's just some guys.
In terms of the violence, you're correct.
Like, there's just some guys that they step on the field and they immediately understand the level of physicality it takes to play the game. Now, obviously, there are some fundamental things that will have to be cleaned up. You'd have to assume that will be ironed out very quickly at the University of Georgia.
Here's the good news for him, and here's why you already know he's physical and he likes to hit people. Big people that have never played football, 9 times out of 10, those guys are asked to play offensive line because we don't know if he's going to hit. We just know he's been big his whole life. So we don't know if he's going to be violent. We don't know if he's going to have pop in his pads. We don't know if he's going to be able to strike and unleash things. We just know he's big. So most of those guys get put on offensive line. This guy's obvious traits are he's big, he's athletic, he likes to hit people. All right. Well, then he's going to play defensive line despite the fact that he's never done it before. You're kind of in the right area in the sense that from a scouting perspective, almost every first-year player I find is on the offensive side of the football. Because I can't guarantee you're violent. You know what I mean? I can guarantee you're big, but even that, man, like that in college, he's going to have to unzip his feet. He's just running through contact right here, and he's lucky that he blows the line of scrimmage up so much that he gets to the mesh point in time. You can see just how big and strong he is, though. Thick uppers, too, on this kid. See, that's the most technically sound rep he's had on the tape so far. He stacks and sheds out here. He keeps his outside arm free. This is really, really good technique from JJ right here. Look, a butt, a press, gets back outside, peaks. Now he's going to keep his outside arm free, and he set that edge real hard. He's going to turn this play back in. That's a really, really good rep right there from a young football player. That's applying whatever they were talking about that week during individual work. I would like to see a little bit more separation here once he identifies that this guy is base blocking him. Okay, what do I mean by that? At this point right here, we've got to see some type of separation. Okay, we can't allow this guy to stay inside of our chest. We've got to press out. That way we can peek, and that way we can shed. We can't peek and shed when the guy's up in our chest. That's why you can see there's a real tough time getting off and disengaged with that blocker right there. That will become a lot easier once we actually press our arms out. It still has a tendency to do it right there. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
How we're allowing this offensive lineman to remain attached to our chest plate. We've got to get that out. All right. At this point right now, we should be completely locked out. We should have rolled our hips. We should have engaged our triceps, and there should be separation between me and that offensive lineman. It's great that we're having this happen at the line of scrimmage, but our inability to get off of that block right there, all right, the inability to have that happen is because we did not create separation after our initial strike. Same thing here. We have a tendency to get sucked up on offensive linemen, and I'm going to tell you right now, you do that in college, you're going to get cooked. All right, you do that in college, you're going to be in deep shit at the line of scrimmage. You're not going to be able to disengage, and Kirby Smart's going to be yelling on the microphone at you. All right? So there's that. I like that because it's been a while. I mean, you can make the argument that they did it with Ja, but Ja was a top 250 player, so I don't want to do this with that. They have not taken he fits the measurables, stab in a fat minute on the defensive line.
Right.
It's always been really, really solid football players, blue chippers, and then maybe an in-state guy. This is a guy from out of state, as far as out of state can be, and they took him because of the same reasons that they take guys like Anthony Evans. They took him for the same reason that they took guys like Ladd McConkey. They took him for the same reason that they took guys like A.D. Mitchell. They took him for the same reason they took guys like Kyron Jones. All right, they fit physical measurements. They have an extremely high ceiling, and they have the floor of a body type that will fit for our program. I like the take. It's a very high ceiling type of player. When you have a good feeling that you're going to sign Isaiah Gibson, you have a good feeling that you're going to end up landing Justice Terry and Elijah Griffin. And if that's the case, you need a high ceiling football player that is, for lack of a better term, a developmental project type of a take. This is a solid take.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to hit on, is the fact that you do feel comfortable in other recruitments and you already have commitments right now on your roster that allow you to go and take a stab like this. And you're not going to make your class any worse. You're only going to make it even better if he does tap into the ceiling and he does reach his full potential at the college level. There's only opportunity for this class to get even better by taking a player like him.
Yeah, I mean, this guy could be your next Jordan Davis, not necessarily as a true zero, but the fact that it was a lesser-known recruit for you, Will. You took him because of measurables. You took him because of potential, and he ended up being one of your better players on the defensive line. Like, in 2 to 3 years, we had to be talking about, like, man, they knew what they were doing when they picked this kid. So I love the pick.
Sometimes I wonder if my tone... I'm just thinking back to the Florida segment. Because,
you were cooking.
I was cooking.
We haven't had one of those in a minute.
Yeah, but sometimes people just like, will y'all tell the fat guy to quit screaming? And, it is what it is.
Billy Napier might unfollow you again, but that's okay.
That's happened multiple times.
Yeah.
The
so I said again.
And the unfollow. I might, you know what? I'm going to check on that right now.
Does the intro not say these are takes I'm hot about still?
Yeah.
You're right. Shouldn't be self-conscious about it.
Hey, man. It's NBR. Nothing.
Even I got told to pipe it down a little bit. So maybe we're just heating up a little bit.
Who told you to pipe it down?
That was in the comment section. They're like, dude with the dark hair needs to calm down a little bit. And you were like, we all have dark hair. He's like, sorry, the one who got married. And I was like, that would be me, bro.
Billy's still following the homeboy.
Oh.
So we're all right. For now. You think Billy's in here watching? Hey, Bill. You think he likes going by Bill?
No.
Probably not. If you go by Billy,
I bet his friends call him Bill.
He's either Billy or B. I bet he likes him. He seems like a guy that like the nickname B.
What about B-Nap?
B-Nap.
Hey, yo, B-Nap. I like that.
That's a good one.
Coach B.
All right, on to our next segment. I like this one. a lot.
You're welcome.
This is the segment called What Would Be Bigger for Georgia? This is a little game we're going to play here, all right? Here's how this is going to work. This is an example of how this game's going to work. You ready?
Well, this is one of mine. Can I say it?
Credit where credit is due, my baby. Come on.
I need it to make
Come on with it.
to get to our magic number of 3, all right?
Come on with it.
So the example I put in the show notes is Branson Robinson turning into RB2 this season or Colby Young turning into the guy at X.
Which would be bigger for Georgia?
Yes.
You have to, it's like a game show. You have to present it like that and then go, which would be bigger for Georgia?
I'm going to say Branson Robinson turning into RB2 because that means that you have 3 healthy, solid backs in the backfield. And that's something, not just 3 healthy, solid backs, 3 very, very, very talented running backs at your disposal that can do a multitude of things. Something that Georgia hasn't had for a full season or just through the majority of a season in a while.
Here comes the zig. It's Colby Young becoming a true X because that opens up Dylan Bell to return to more of that designated pass catcher role that we've been talking about on the channel for quite some time now.
Also true.
So I'm going to go that.
Yeah, that's the same reasoning that I was going to pick Colby Young. And also, too, just having assurance that this X wide receiver, this big body wide receiver from Miami that you felt necessary to take a shot at and bring onto your roster, the eval that you took on him was correct and you hit on that one. That's something that Georgia needs to start showing up in these transfer portal takes, because we've talked about how, 1 year you took Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett, then this next year you take 4 more wide receivers. You need to start getting some return on investments on these because one of them has already been X'd out. You did not get your return on investment in that one. Dominic Lovett, it appears you're going to get that this year. You need to see that from Colby Young. London Humphreys, you might have to wait a little bit longer, but you need to make sure that you're actually hitting on these transfer portal players.
I want a Jamison Williams home run. Ooh. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want a
Keon Coleman.
Yeah, I want one of those. That's what I want. We signed a dude. I want Colby Young to play 5 games like he did at Miami last year against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's what Georgia needs desperately out of the portal, because if this is what it's going to be, which, by the way, they signed 2 guys in 2024. They didn't sign 5. They signed 2 guys in 2024. Looks like they're going to add 4 and hope for a 5th in 2025. So the bodies are coming, but those bodies are a little bit ways away from playing on SEC football fields, which means you're probably going to have to dip back into the portal this coming up year, which means you're probably going to need some type of track record for these big portal names to show that if you come to Georgia, we can enhance your draft stock. No different than what happened with Keon Coleman down at Florida State. But proof of concept is certainly needed, because you don't have it, and it's going to get used against you on the recruiting trail in the transfer portal, where guys need to know that if I go there, my draft stock's going to be increased, not hope for it, right? They need to know. And if they don't know for a fact or proof of concept, it's going to be used against you in these big transfer portal recruitments, which, maybe they don't feel the need to be involved in these. Maybe they didn't get involved. But I know they called Keon Coleman. I know they tried. I know they were interested in his services. They didn't pony up for the services, all right? But the next one, maybe they are willing to take a pay cut for you guys, because they know that you're not going to spend it, and they know that maybe I can take a pay cut and be developed at a high rate, because, again, they have proof of concept. But that only comes if a guy like Colby Young is balling. Bigger moment or bigger impact for Georgia's football season this year: Carson Beck wins the Heisman outright, or Malachi Starks is in New York, finishes inside the top 3.
Oh, Malachi Starks.
As a Heisman?
As a Heisman.
Malachi Starks.
I don't know. I just told you. One of them is the quarterback of your football program is guaranteed to win it, or the other one is a position player on the defensive side of the football that plays so well that he's invited.
Let me tell you this, though. Carson Beck can still have a really great season without making it to New York, and Malachi Starks can do the same. If Malachi Starks is sitting in New York, that's one of the most historic seasons you have ever seen in college football history. I mean, that is one of the greatest things that you have ever seen if Malachi Starks is sitting in New York, because he's not going to do it the way that Caleb Downs might do it to get there, of playing offensive snaps.
It will be turnovers created, tackles, impact plays. Mm-hmm. It will be, this guy is so far and away the best football player in America.
If he does that, that is a bigger moment, in my opinion.
I'm hung up on this because I think having a Heisman winner in the modern era of college football is one of the last infinity stones that Georgia needs. And Carson Beck doing that would basically silence the entire narrative of Georgia only runs a football, Georgia can't develop quarterbacks, they don't have highly talented offensive players. Like, you would kill that all in one fell. So we know Georgia has talented defensive players. We see it every year. We know Malachi Starks is one of the greatest defensive players in the country. He doesn't need to finish in the top 3 of the Heisman to win that. As incredible as that season would be, I absolutely agree. I think long term, having Carson Beck win the Heisman would do better for that program down the road, because you can no longer say, well, Kirby can't develop offensive talent, because you can say, well, they just won a Heisman winner with Carson Beck, things such as that.
Which one's more impactful on the season? Which one makes Georgia a better football team? If I tell you right now, Carson Beck goes for 4,100 and wins the Heisman, or Malachi Starks is the best defensive football player in the country.
Malachi Starks finishing the Heisman would be a better impact, because he's going to have like 13 interceptions. Like, he's going to have an insane season.
Couple tuds.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Like a pick 6 or 2, block punt maybe.
All right, who's up next?
I can go. I did the negative of that. What would be bigger for Georgia? Losing to Clemson in week 1 or losing to Tennessee at home?
A bigger impact on the season would probably be Tennessee mid-year. Taking an SEC L would be not a travesty, but the non-conference against Clemson, who, if they're good enough to beat you, they're good enough to run the table in the ACC, you would imagine, right? In this mythical case here. I would say the loss to Tennessee would impact that season more.
Yeah, I would say it's impactful too, because you can kind of float around several scenarios in this, but Tennessee is your last game after that harsh stretch throughout Ole Miss, Texas, Alabama, those games. So, like, if you lose one to Texas and then you get through that gauntlet, like you're able to win both Alabama and Ole Miss, or vice versa with any of those. If you go 10-2 there, but then you slip up against Tennessee late in the year and you get to 2 losses, that has a massive impact on your season, where if you lose to Clemson, from from the start of week 1 now, all right, like, that's it. That's our one loss. Now we have to go out here and push through this, where if you get through that gauntlet.
If Tennessee's a second loss, it's not
ideal.
No.
especially late. We know how late losses
there goes home field advantage too, because if you get out of your regular season schedule 11-1, I think you're a top 5 seed no matter what happens during the SEC championship game because you're there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So you'd be, either 12-1 and the number 1 overall seed, you would imagine, SEC champion, or 11-2. And you'd be like the 5 seed or the 6 seed
with the hardest schedule in the country.
In the country. So I think it's certainly losing to Tennessee after that slate. That's the thing. It's after all the tough games, and whatever happens there, however it shakes out, you're either 1 loss away from losing a bunch of seeding or 1 loss away from not being in the picture at all. Mm-hmm. Who's up next?
All right. Oscar Delp and Ben Yurosek are the 2 best tight ends in the country, or CJ Allen wins the Butkus?
I'll go CJ Allen wins a Butkus.
Yeah.
Because I think that you had the 2 best tight ends in the country in 2021 and 2022. And as much of an impact that was positively, I don't think there's a Brock Bowers on this roster this year. No offense to any of the other guys. Brock Bowers is a once-in-a-lifetime talent.
I was going to say, you're on the right track in this sense right now. Oscar Delp and Ben Yurosek could be the best tight ends in the country, and that's fine. They'll never be that much better than everybody else like Brock was for so long.
Correct.
Darnell Washington was, in any other year, the best tight end in college football, except for there was this Brock Bowers guy, and he happened to be on the same team. And then the next year, it was like, all right, Brock Bowers is the best tight end in college football, and then there's these other guys. Like it was no different than when Gronk was at his peak in the NFL.
Correct.
It's like Gronk is so far and away the best tight end in the sport. Oh, and by the way, they have Aaron Hernandez. Like that's kind of how it was at Georgia. So even if they are the 2 best tight ends in the country, I don't think it ever looks like the separation between what Georgia had at tight end in 21 versus the rest of the country.
But I don't think it has to be that way for it to be super impactful because. I mean, while there are answers at the wide receiver position, if you can just automatically say like we have the 2 best options in the country at tight end, and we can rotate those guys in and out, and those guys can be explosive. That's how they were trying to use Oscar Delp last year. If those guys can provide that offensively, then that solves a whole lot of other problems that we don't have to stress about throughout the season. And my counter argument to it of if CJ Allen wins the Butkus, Georgia has great linebackers every year, and I feel like that's never something that you have to concern about. But there is a bigger, not necessarily a huge concern, but there is just this question of what does it look like without Brock Bowers? If you can just kind of go ahead and say we're going to have the best tight end in the country, but also we're going to have 2 of them, I think that solves a bigger question.
They've had a finalist for the Butkus Award every year for the last 6 years, I think.
Yeah. My only counter to that would be every time Georgia's had a Butkus Award winner, they go to the national title.
Fair argument.
Which
Very fair.
That's pretty huge.
N'Kobe and Roquan?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Not a bad list right there. All right. Bigger impact on Georgia's season this year. Georgia leads all of college football in sacks, or Georgia leads all of college football in explosives?
Explosives. This one just actually became easy for me because Georgia has proven that they don't need sacks to win football games and win big football games and be the best team in the country defensively. And I think they've proven that year after year after year when we get mid-season and everybody's taking screenshots of Michael Williams' box score after every game saying like, wow, Buddy only has 4 sacks and we're in week 8. They prove it every single year. If Georgia is the most explosive offense in college football this year, they're winning the national title in my opinion.
Yeah. I have nothing to push back on that. You're exactly right with that.
I don't either because of the stat that Lane Kiffin gave Kirby Smart. The idea that for my entire football life, the largest indicator of wins and losses in football has always been turnover margin. Everybody has always talked about turnover margin. Win the turnover margin, you got a chance to win the game. Win the turnover margin. One of my coaches used to say, win 2 out of the 3 phases, you're guaranteed to win the football game. That's not true either. Win the turnover margin, win the turnover margin, win the turnover margin. Do you know over the last 5 years of college football, the biggest indicator of wins has actually been explosive play margin? If you have more explosive plays than your opponent, you're more likely to win. That's huge. Explosiveness is the winner here. If you lead the country at explosives, I mean, the only team to not make the playoff having done that the last 4 or 5 years has been Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And they were damn close.
They were really close.
They were damn close. It wasn't necessarily the Swiss cheese defense. It was the Swiss cheese ACL. But go ahead.
Damn.
every ACL that tears is Swiss cheese. And that ain't
fair.
specific to him.
No, that's fair.
That is not specific to him.
That was just a funny way to put it.
That's
I
fair.
mean, get sensitive on me.
I wasn't
We weren't sensitive. I laughed.
They would have also lost that game anyways. But I mean,
That's fair.
what would have a bigger impact on Georgia's season? Having a first round talent at the wide receiver position doesn't go for 1,000 yards. He's a first
just a
round
talent.
Yes, he's a first round player. Or you have two absolute straps at corner. I'm talking Kamari Lassiter opposite Jim Thorpe,
Straps.
DeAndre Baker.
Straps.
Give me the 2 straps.
That is such a rarity in football now. Like, you can have 2 of them. Alabama proved this last year. If you can have 2 of those guys on defense, and I know they didn't win the title, but that was such a difference maker for them on defense last year. And if you can have 2 of them, not just one of them, 2 of them, like you're saying 2 Kamari Lassiters this year, essentially, of like you're just not going to get anything by him. That is such a rarity in both the NFL and college football.
I think we're unanimously voting on that one.
Yeah.
All right. Bigger impact to Georgia football season. Carson Beck gets hurt and can't play, or Mykel Williams and Malachi Starks are hurt and can't play.
Are these midseason injuries?
It doesn't matter. Let's say after Clemson, you got to battle the rest of the season without one of those.
Does matter, by the way. Anyways, so after Clemson, losing both Mykel and Malachi, that is tough. But if you lose Carson Beck, season feels cooked.
I'm gonna go with Carson Beck there because as we all know, Malachi Starks, Mykel Williams are the 2 best players on that defense. They can go down and your defense can still operate towards a similar level. You're not going to be able to do some of the packages you have. You're not probably going to be able to run the same coverages without Malachi back there, but you can still operate on the defensive scheme you know. If Carson Beck goes down, your entire offensive game plan's cooked. You have to readjust. There are different things you have to do for a skill set. You're going to have to do more plays that cater to Gunnar Stockton's skill set, something that your ones have not been repping religiously like they have with Carson Beck. So I'm going to say Carson Beck.
I'm going to say this too, and I'm not meaning this in a bad way for Gunnar Stockton. I would feel much more comfortable telling KJ Bolden, go out there and figure it out because you have to, than telling Gunnar Stockton after week 1, hey, we're throwing you out there, go figure it out and take us to a national title right now. Because again, like KJ Bolden being a safety and you just telling him like go figure out being an athlete, you can do that at safety. Telling a quarterback to just go out there and figure it out against Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama, those teams, that is not a recipe for success. And a quarterback is such a crucial position.
Yeah.
I mean, Gunnar Stockton is very talented. I think eventually he could fit into a groove, but
It don't even got to be that serious. It doesn't even have to be about Gunnar. It's about the positional value. I can hide inexperience at safety. I can hide inexperience at defensive end. I cannot hide inexperience or a massive change at the quarterback position. It just doesn't work like that. We've seen this happen year over year in the NFL where it's like, oh, the starting safety's down this week and half of the starting defense is out, but they still got a top 5 quarterback in the league. They're gonna be fine. It's why you see starting caliber football players get announced that they're injured, they're not going to play. The Vegas line does not move. Aaron Rodgers is out, it moves a whole 4 points. Like, it's totally different no matter how good your backup is. It doesn't have to be, oh, they must be down on Gunnar. No, we're that high on the positional value of the quarterback position.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I get kind of a funky one.
Come on.
Carson Beck rushes for 175 yards, or Georgia has 5 more 20-plus yard rushes this season. And for context, 5 more last season would have put you top 10 in the country for 20-plus yard rushes. And also, 175 rushing yards would be 60 more rushing yards added onto his tally from last year.
That many more rushing yards, because he's not going to scramble, is going to imply that he basically never gets sacked.
And if you do the math,
We only got sacked like 9 times last year.
Yeah, but I mean, you're adding 60 more rushing yards that you're never getting sacked, basically. That's
And
7 or 8 sacks right there.
if you kind of do the math, like most of the time, if that's happening, like that's a guaranteed at least of, I don't know, like 10 more first downs.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Carson Beck rushing, not because I think adding his legs to the game is going to make Georgia's offense much better. I think the fact that you're adding 60 yards to his stats is going to implies that you're keeping him upright throughout the season, which is crucial. And if you can keep him upright in the pocket, you have to trust the decisions he's going to make most every time. So I'll go with that.
I'm in agreement there. All right, here's one for you. And I think this is a real tough question. And it's one that actually it might play itself out because these are 2 unproven football players that need to be great this year. Which is a bigger impact on Georgia's football season? Jared Wilson is a dud or Jonell Aguero is a dud?
I'm going to say bigger. Okay. If Jonell Aguero,
when I say a dud, I mean they're not winnable. That guy is losing his one-on-one consistently. We have got to make a change.
Can Jared Wilson get the snap to Carson back?
Yeah. I'm not talking about he's just snapping balls. I'm talking about he's snapping the ball fine, but defensive tackles are giving us hell.
I'm going to go Jonell Aguero.
I'm going Jonell because if the game plan is to put Tate at center in that scenario, then you have Micah Morris and you have Dylan Fairchild as your two guards, and then you have Tate Ratledge in the center. And at this point, and this could very well be answered after fall camp, but right now it still feels like there's just this question of star. And if Jonell isn't the guy, then it really becomes a question of like, who are we going to get there? We haven't really seen it yet. So I feel like that would be just going, I'm comfortable with Tate being in the center and then Micah Morris and Dylan Fairchild being the two guards. And I am, if we don't have Jonell Aguero as an answer, not only did we miss on this 5-star prospect, but we still have a big question at one of the most important positions on our defense.
You've got the ultimate parachute at star, though. You've got the ultimate parachute. His name's Malachi Starks. If things got bad enough, you could just put him there and it would be over with. He'd be the best star to ever play the nickel position at the University of Georgia, period, point blank. It'd be like having Minkah Fitzpatrick in year 2 of the NFL playing at star for Georgia right now. That's what it would be like. It would feel like that. You don't have a ripcord at center. Tate is not, I don't think Tate is 100% confident in doing that right now.
That's fair.
Based off the way he talked in the spring, sounded like he was drinking from a fire hose. All right, so he's certainly more comfortable at playing guard. I think it's if Jonell Aguero is a problem, it will be solved. They'll figure something out there. If you don't have a center, that's big. But I don't think these are going to be problems. I think Jared Wilson's going to be fine. In fact, I think he's going to be more than fine. But it's a question nonetheless.
Yeah, that's a good one. All right, I've got one.
I got one more after that.
What would be bigger, beating Bama on the road, but you lose to whoever in the SEC championship game, or you lose to Bama on the road, but you win the SEC championship?
You win the SEC championship game, you get a bye, and that's important. So I'm going there.
Absolutely.
But even if the narrative is you still can't beat Bama, all that, you don't think that's going to have that much of an effect?
It's the same thing I said a couple weeks ago. You win the Natty, who gives a shit? Who gives a crap that you lost to Alabama? You got a ring to it. You take that regular season loss every single year.
That's very true.
He makes a good point. He makes a very good point. That SEC championship game for 2021 is not remembered.
Yeah, nobody cares.
33-14 is not remembered. Wasn't it 33-14?
I don't even remember.
Not remembered.
It was 41-17.
Not remembered. No one cares.
Yeah. Congrats.
All they remember is the rematch in Indy. That's it. All they remember is the national title. Warren Brinson blossoms or Nazir Stackhouse blossoms?
Warren.
I'm in agreement.
I think Warren.
If Warren Brinson plays like an NFL football player at the 3-tech position, most of your havoc and most of your TFLs and most of your sacks, all those problems are probably alleviated really quickly.
I knew you'd say it. That's why I just said Warren. That's exactly why I'm going to go with Warren.
And I mean, Nas could take a step, and he's not even a step doesn't put him up to the Jordan Davises of the world at that nose tackle position.
And too, like, even if Nazir Stackhouse this season, not saying he would do this, but if Nazir is just a complete copy and paste of what he was last year, your defense is still going to be completely fine. He was a very good football player last year. Sure, he had maybe some down moments, but it's a long season.
Couldn't run that pick six in.
Well, no, it's not that. It's the Alabama game.
Yeah.
There's like 3 clips of Tyler Booker rolling him, and now everybody thinks he's terrible, and that's just not the truth. Now, it hurt his draft stock, don't get me wrong. That being one of the last images of the NFL scouting world of him was not great for his draft stock, but it probably had him coming back to Georgia this year, to be honest. All right, we played one bold prediction. Anybody have any left?
No.
We played one bold prediction on the National Hour last night. We're going to do it here local edition style. Bold prediction for the 2024 college football season. Michael Williams, 11.5 sacks.
That is pretty bold.
That's about as bold as it
Who's
gets.
the last Georgia player to get over 10?
It would have been Leonard Floyd.
That would have been 20.
We looked this up the other day. Did we go all the way back to Jarvis?
I want to say it was Jarvis because I think Leonard Floyd got to 9.5.
So you're telling me it's been so long since Georgia's had a 10-plus sack guy that the dude who had the 10-plus sacks has been on the staff for 3 years?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Now, A lot of people say.
Excuse me. He got 10.5 his last
did?
year.
Leonard
Floyd. So that was 2013?
15.
Look at the kid.
2015.
Look at the kid. It would be huge. It would be huge for Michael. It would be huge for Georgia. I also think it's very attainable. I think it's very attainable. He's going to have to do work. Also, by the way, there are going to be multiple games this year where the opponent's actually going to want to drive the ball down the field. Texas is one of these. Ole Miss is one of these. Alabama is one of these. Okay, you're actually going to have opponents every single week that doesn't just downset hut, chuck it up. Immediately get it out of your hands. We're so afraid of them getting after us. Get out of here and get out of here and get out of your hands.
I think, too, like, one thing Georgia players are really, really good at when they get to the quarterback is strip sacks. So you turn 10.5 sacks into 2 or 3 strip sacks as well. That's massive turning points in football games. Mine is Georgia scores 50-plus points in 5 different times this season.
You got them hanging up 50 on who? Tech?
This is the teams that I listed. Tennessee Tech being one. Mississippi State being one. UMass, Georgia Tech, and then one of Ole Miss, Florida, or Auburn.
Georgia Tech's defense has given Georgia some problems.
Also, I don't see him putting 50 on Jeff Lebby's first year coaching.
Yeah.
You know, respect. I've been on the other side of that.
He might just walk into it.
He might just walk into a 50 burger.
Yeah, maybe they're just so bad that you just can't not score.
I've watched this man put up 33 against Samford. What are you talking about?
This is SEC football, buddy.
Walking into 50?
It's Heisman season, Brooks.
That football game against Samford was so funny.
Yeah. What was the score against UAB in 2021?
It was 49-14.
Oh, was it 49?
Like
That was 52.
I think
52,
I think they hit 52 on the pop pick 6.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. It doesn't
I'm going to say no.
They take the
Not that we're doing we're denying your bold
just
prediction.
piss on my bold prediction.
I like your bold prediction.
Nobody did it to Brooks.
It's
It's
the
very
bold.
bold.
We sat here and said the last time it was 2015.
I'm sorry.
And nobody said that ain't happening.
I'm sorry.
Man, I throw one up.
I'm sorry.
Smack it off the backboard.
I'm sorry. All right, my bold prediction, and you can disagree with this if you want. It won't bother me. Everyone's talking about how Carson Beck is going to be the number 1 overall pick this year, and I think that's probably true. I'm going to go ahead and say Georgia Bulldogs will have the number 1 overall pick and the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft this year. Carson Beck number 1, Michael number 2. You can flip-flop it depending on who. If the Panthers go first again, they probably will take Michael Williams. I'm also going to say Malachi Starks is a top 10 pick in there. So Georgia will have 3 top 10 picks in the 2025 NFL draft.
This is hot.
And honestly, I think it's attainable. If Michael has a 10.5 sack season and Carson Beck does everyone else, I mean, that's 1A and 1B.
Don't shortchange my hot take.
Would you say 11.5?
11.5.
It's too hot.
11.5.
It's too hot.
Too hot. It is smoldering. Those are really good takes. What also is really, really good, sat down for about 2 hours today and took some notes on Clemson's spring game. Jay Will and I will be in the studio tomorrow filming that film study for you guys. We will be debuting our first film study of the 2024 college football season, hopefully tomorrow afternoon. So that's good news there. Make sure you're showing up for that and doing all good stuff there. I will tell you this, just a brief overview of what I saw today. Their play style, the way they've gone about designing offense and defense, it is not suitable for what they have personally or personnel wise compared to what Georgia's got. And what do I mean by that? Well, defensively, they're a 5-man pressure unit no matter what. They also play more man coverage than any team I've scouted that Georgia's going to play against since probably Bama, and it's Bama, and that's it. Like, nobody else leaves corners on islands quite like this that I have studied in the last several years of Georgia opponents coming up. So that's worth noting. Whether or not they felt like they could do that in their spring game, so they did it against their own weapons, and maybe they don't feel like they can do that against Georgia, but nonetheless, the stuff that we're going to show you tomorrow is a pressure-based football team, not a blitz-based football team, a pressure-based football team. They're going to send 5 at all times, and the 5th guy will come from any variety of spots. He might be a safety, he might be an inside linebacker, he might be a nickel defender. They will send a 5th from some variety of pressure at all times. The other thing that's very interesting to me, they are pace-based on the offensive side of the football. They led the nation in average number of plays ran per game last year. They're going to try to get up 80 snaps in this football game. I don't think that's conducive against the Georgia football unit either, considering the depth that they have. Also, a bunch of east to west stuff in this offense. not suitable for Georgia. If you think you're going to run sideline to sideline against Georgia, that's what they want you to do. They want you to run east to west. They want to run and use their team speed. They do not want you pressing them vertically, because the quickest way to an end zone is indeed a straight line. So they're going to try to make you go east and west, and this is what a team wants to do. It's not very conducive for Georgia. So that's coming up tomorrow. Super excited to bring that to you. We also, Thursday, before we get back on to our live stream here, we will have a Kirby Smart press conference. Kirby Smart set to talk to the media Thursday at around noon or 12:30, I think is what the email said today. Biggest prediction, best prediction you got for what Kirby Smart is going to say on Thursday?
I'm going to go with, aside from, the normal, very excited to begin our blah, 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 blah. And maybe if he talks about Clemson, he'll have a lot of respect for those guys. I think the word accountability is going to be used a lot in this presser. And I think we kind of know why as well, but it's also going to be, he's going to just use that word as many times as he can to kind of get it out there into the public.
The main goal right now is to beat Clemson. We're not worried about anything else or what's happening down the season. Our main goal is to beat the Clemson Tigers.
The main thing. I like that. The word callous will be used on Thursday. We got to prepare this unit for the wars ahead. The word callous will get brought up, okay? And I'm going to tell you right now, at some point during Thursday's opening press conference, he will mention the fact that this opening against Clemson and opening against a national, brand, and opening with a game such a caliber of this has really provided a spark and a life to the offseason. There's a little bit different of a juice in the building. There will be some type of alludence to the fact that this Clemson game being at the start of this schedule is ideal. Dynamism.
Yes, we talked about this earlier.
Nailed it. Dynamism. You know what? It's all about improving, baby. That's all you can do. You can only get better in this world. I'm good on tonight's show. Are you guys good?
Yes, sir.
All right. For the Film Guy Network, for Brooks, for Kirby, for J. Will, we will see you guys tomorrow with a film study. Love you. Bye.